Arrested after hitting a police cruiser with his four-wheeler yesterday. According to Chicopee police officers, they were dispatched to the area of Fuller Road and Sheridan Street to assist Springfield police in locating an armed robbery suspect. They received word that the suspect was driving an off-road vehicle. Officers eventually came across a four-wheeler stopped at a red light and turned on their lights to pull it over. Officers say the driver, identified as 20-year-old Daniel Walker from Springfield, revved the engine, causing the four-wheeler to hit the cruiser. After the crash, Walker jumped off the four-wheeler and took off into the nearby woods. He was taken into custody and now faces several reckless driving-related charges. This is not Walker's first run-in with the law. Back in September of 2023, he was one of three people arrested after a group of Springfield police officers were injured during a traffic stop. Walker, who was allegedly driving a stolen Hyundai, backed into a Springfield police cruiser then that had two officers inside on Maple Street. He allegedly sped forward and drove over another officer's foot and took off behind the wheel. Walker then continued driving erratically before crashing into another police cruiser on Central Street, injuring two officers inside that. He was arrested and charged with assault and battery, leaving the scene of an accident and more.